in the early operations, I suppose, started in the late 40s. And at that time, this operation, which was very labour intensive, moved into a very rural area, and there just weren't enough people to do all this manual work. So the company brought in people from all over the country, and they had nowhere to stay. And there was no transport like now, so they built all these hostels. But there was quite a reluctance by the locals, and they didn't want them coming in. The local farming community resisted all this new building and moving into their area. But I don't know the exact reasons. I just remember John telling me that work was held up, and they were a certain amount fearful.
He was the first man, I think, to drive.
Yeah, he actually drove the bulldozer to the ditch.
When people came at first to work with Boardnamona, they didn't interact with the local community, whatever, played football, but they wouldn't have been mixing with the community. But then, as men being men and women being women, the men began to be a bit adventurous, and I suppose the girls found new men maybe more interesting or whatever, so they gradually kind of intermingled, and that was it. I wouldn't say there was resentment, because there was no need to be resentful on one hand, because we were benefiting from Boardnamona financially. I don't mean to sound selfish about it, but it brought prosperity to the area.
When you left school in Ballyboy abroad, you had nowhere to go, bar you went to the farmer or someone like that, and you could get a seasonable job in Boardnamona at that time, in the summer when the weather was good. And they'd let you go then in September or October until maybe March again. So you hope to get a job with someone else, and you probably get a job with a farmer doing different things. But in Boardnamona, and we got a job at the council. So that's subsidised for Boardnamona, you know. And then when it was all over, then in March we got back to Boardnamona again.
You clad yourself according to the conditions. You might work in the summer in a shirt, but in winter you could be working in your overcoat. Well, not all the time. Now it will be at times. And I remember at one stage it wasn't comfortable working with a lot of clothes on. We protested to the manager. He just laughed us out of the room. He said, "Look at I do it." And he had his overcoat on the morning we went in to see him, and he said, "This is what I do." He says, I put on my overcoat if it's cold. He said, "We don't have any other system." But that changed over the years, and there were central heating was put in. In fact, new offices were built with very modern conditions, and when I left it was the conditions there were no different than you would find in a city.
The other thing that happened with the board was, of course, like everything else, modernisation. Originally, Boardnamona, when they were digging what we would call drains to drain the bog, it was done by hand, piecework. You were paid by the PBR, paid by returns. You were paid by your returns, you know. But now modernisation has come along, and we have, say, a huge big New Holland or Ford tractor or whatever, with what we call a ditcher on the back. And it'll travel up and down through the bog there and clean them drains. Do hundreds of drains or meters of drains per day. So Boardnamona don't require the same number of people as they used in the past, do you know?
It's like whatever job you do, you make friends with new people, and you become very friendly with them, and they become part of your life. And that's I suppose one reason why you stay there, apart from the company and the wages and the living. I don't think the job is a multi-faceted thing. I think it's as much about your environment and who you work with as it is about receiving a pay packet at the end of the week. Now, the pay packet is very important, but I don't think it would keep you there if you weren't happy with your environment.